I'm ready.
You can go with your countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so this is Celeste, a game where you have to climb a mountain really fast. And this is the prologue. So the prologue shows us how to move forward, how to jump, how to climb, very basic stuff. And eventually it's going to get very interesting when we eventually get our dash at the end of it. So right now I'm doing these little short hops that are going to gain me a couple of frames. It's just a little faster than actually walking forward. I'm going to do that until the end, and we're going to get our dash. So I'm not going to explain the dash mechanics yet. I'm actually just going to show you the first chapter because it's going to show you a lot of the crazy movement that you're going to see throughout the rest of the run. So I'm going to kind of let the first level do the talking. But you're definitely going to see a lot of dashes, a lot of different types of dashes. If you played this game casually before, I wouldn't worry. You're going to see, again, very different stuff than you've probably found in the actual run. So this is Forsaken City. Forsaken City has a couple of interesting elements on its own. The first thing we're going to see are these zipper blocks here. Whenever you touch them, they sort of zip to the end of the block. I'm failing a bounce at the moment. So they zip to the end of the chain, and they send you flying. So in the game, if you get a whole bunch of momentum, and then you jump at the end of it, that momentum is going to be applied to your speed, and you just get a whole bunch of crazy speed. And you can go really fast. So you're going to see that right here. And it's going to show up a little more throughout the run. Obviously, spikes are very dangerous. Falling to your death is very dangerous. We're trying to climb this mountain pretty, without any wounds, which is probably not going to happen. This game does get very difficult. You're going to see me take a lot of deaths. And yeah, the strawberries around, we're not going to pick them up. They're sort of just a collectible for the end of the game when you create a strawberry pie, and I'll get to that a little later. All right, so we're coming up to the final room, and that was awesome. All right, so 128, a decent time. I'm going to start explaining some of the different types of dashes in Old Sight, which is the next chapter. I'll go through dash jumping and hyper dashing, which are going to be our two main dashes throughout the run. So hyper dashing gives you a lot of horizontal distance, but not a whole lot of vertical. And dash jumping is going to give us a lot of vertical distance and not a whole lot of horizontal. So that's a hyper dash. And then you can do something that's called a wave dash, which is dashing into the ground and then preserving your speed. So right there in that cutscene, when you press skip cutscene, the game kind of preserves your horizontal, or not horizontal, your vertical Y position, but not your X. So it moves you a little bit to the side, but it doesn't really care where it's actually putting you. So it put me directly in a dream block, and I was able to dash out of the dream block. So dream blocks are these big blocks that I can dash into. When I dash into them in any direction, the block is going to make me continue in that direction until I either hit a wall or get out of it. Now right now you're seeing Battle Line for the first time. So Battle Line is our main antagonist, which is a copy of ourselves. And Battle Line is going to trail us 3 seconds behind us. So she's going to copy all of our movement, but 3 seconds behind. And if we get hit by her, she will kill us. So that's kind of a cool section where we just kind of get to use our movement. And now we're in the awake section where the dream blocks are gone. Madeline has woken up from her dream, and we get to do a bunch of really cool movement. Except for that wasn't cool movement. All right, and that's Old Site. So we're going to be moving into, in my opinion, one of the harder levels in the game, the one I struggle with the most, which is Celestial Resort. And one of the reasons why it's so hard is that every room is on a cycle. So there's like the first cycle, and then there's the death cycle. So we want to do every room in the first cycle because the death cycle is slightly different, and we have to change up our strats a little bit. And unfortunately, we have to learn both just in case we take a death anywhere. So the best part of Celestial Resort is these dust mites, or dust bunnies that are floating around. And this is the main reason why there's a death cycle, is they don't always start in the same position when you take a death. There are also these little like tendrils that are coming out of certain blocks, and when we touch them, dust bunnies sort of get created on them, and then we can't touch that area anymore. Otherwise, we take a death. Ooh. All right. So, like, the main reason we're going through this Celestial Resort is the innkeeper named Oshiro wants someone to take the presidential suite because no one's staying in the resort anymore, and Madeline just wants to get the hell out because she just wants to climb her mountain. But he won't let us do that. He's making us pick up all of his trash. So we're coming into the huge mess section where we get to see all these books and pictures and sheets and stuff everywhere, and we have to clean this up. So we're going to clean this up by doing 3 separate sections. And we're going to do these sections in a specific order so that when we finish one and part of the huge mess disappears, we're as close to Oshiro as possible so that we can talk to him and continue on. So we're going to come up to a spike jump, which is at the bottom of a wall with spikes on it. You can actually jump off the bottom pixel. And I don't know what the window on that is, but it can be kind of difficult to get because if you can, well, obviously hit into the spike and take a death. But that sort of works because if you're not going in the direction, if you're not going against the spikes don't actually kill you. But the second you go in the direction of the spikes will kill you. So because we're not going with the spikes, we're going away with them, away from them. That wall sort of counts as a wall, and we can do a bounce on it. So I think this is the first time we're going to see Theo, who's going to be a character that pops up from time to time. He's climbing into the vents because he has no idea how to get out. Right, so now we're done the huge mess portion. We're gonna go into the elevator. We're gonna see some more interesting parts of the Celestial Resort. So that's sort of the easy part. We're getting into the hard part. So these circles that I'm getting count as locks, or I guess keys, and that means there's a locked door somewhere in the room. So if we get all of them, the locked door moves and creates a path for us. There are a couple of rooms where we don't actually have to do that. We can like skip them, but they're very few and far between. Here I'm gonna try to do a strat where I do 4 hyper dashes Oh, okay, 3. And then I grab a key, and when I retry, I still keep the key. So it brings me to the start of the room, and I can save a couple of seconds on that. Yeah, so now it's just getting ridiculous, and we're coming up on our first sort of boss fight, which is going to be Oshiro. So Oshiro is going to be a gigantic head. He's going to telegraph his attack by firing lightning across the screen, and the lightning doesn't actually kill us, it's Oshiro's face that kills us. So this is an entire section where the first cycle and the death cycle is pretty important, because some of these rooms are just really hard on the death cycle, so we want to do them on the first cycle every time. Oh, wow. I actually tied my individual level PB on that. All right, so that's Celestial Resort. We get one of the harder parts out of the way. And now we're coming up to Golden Ridge. So Golden Ridge actually has tons of really interesting parts about it. Some of them we're not going to utilize the way they should be. But I'll get into these bubbles first. So in these bubbles, you can wait a couple of seconds, I think it's like a second when you're in one, and it'll dash you in the direction that you are holding at the moment. Or you can just dash right out of them really quickly. So right here, you're going to see me do it a couple times. And then there are these clouds. So these clouds, they take about a second to pop up. And, well, what we were talking about before with momentum, you can get momentum from the clouds, and it'll spring you up really high. But you can also do, so I'll explain something else to you. There's extended dashes. So an extended dash means that when you dash and then hold it for a couple of frames before jumping, you'll get your second dash back. Okay, there you go. Before jumping into the air. So, sorry, this part's kind of annoying. Yeah, so you'll get your second dash before you get sent off into the air. So it makes going far distances really helpful, because you'll go far doing a hyper dash, and then you'll have a second dash to sort of finish the movement off, kind of like that. And you can extend kind of any dash. So you can extend a dash jump. You can extend a wave dash. So all of these tools become really important throughout the run, just to save frames pretty much. And here I'm doing what's called a reverse dash. So like a reverse hyper dash, where because I don't have a lot of room on that platform, I can dash in reverse and then switch which direction I'm going midway into it, and I keep the momentum from the dash, so then that sort of acts like an extended dash because it's lengthened the platform long enough for me. So I haven't explained the wind at all. Obviously the wind goes in one direction, it pushes you, it's really hard to battle against. And I'm about to get into, ooh, that's not good. A part that's called I believe the heavy wind section. So now we're gonna have heavy wind going against us. We can't walk against the wind. We have to pretty much dash or use these blocks or find some other way to go against the wind. So we're getting pushed like far back. And we're gonna use a lot of hyper dashes to get through this. Also, we have these snowballs, which, as you just saw, kind of hurt. Much like Oshiro, they come across the screen, except they don't telegraph their movement at all. You just need to hope that you remember when the next one's going to get thrown at you. And that's that's the end for snowballs for this chapter. All right, and that's Golden Ridge. Whew. 3:25 is a pretty respectable time. Oh, 28. So Mirror Temple's coming up. Mirror Temple is another fairly interesting level with a lot of very cool mechanics. And I'll sort of explain them as they pop up. The first one's going to be the red bubbles, and they act very much like the teal bubbles that we saw, except they also act like dream blocks at the same time, where they just kind of shoot us in a direction. The only thing is that, much like the teal bubbles, we can dash out of them whenever we want. So I'm going to perform a skip here that makes it so that I don't need to go and grab some keys and go through a bunch of... Well, no, I actually don't think there are keys in there. It's just like I have to go through a couple of different... I can't even remember because I haven't even done it in so long since my casual playthrough. But anyway, there are a couple of rooms that you would have to do otherwise, but instead we just do an extended dash jump, and we can get through it. So I haven't explained ultra dashes, and I just did 2 there. Basically, when you do a hyper dash, and then you hyper dash again while you're in the air very soon after you do the first one, you get an ultra dash, which is just... I completely missed where I was supposed to go. You get an ultra dash that just boosts your speed by a lot. And you can chain these, but humans can't chain more than like one of them, so... I did one, and I was able to sort of go through a room really fast, where I otherwise would have had to wait for one of the dash blocks. So the dash blocks work in when you move, they move at the same time, and they sort of have like, what's it called? There's like they're kind of on a track. So when you dash, they would go to the end of the track, and there are certain areas where trying to beat that cycle or not dashing is actually better than dashing, just because they'll be in really weird positions. And now we're in the Seeker section. So I just played as the Seeker, and the Seeker's main objective is to get Madeline. So I played as one, and then we're gonna see them chase after us in a bit. So the way the Seekers work is they know where we are, they come after us, but instead of just coming straight like Oshiro or the snowballs, they can actually adjust their trajectory a little bit, which can be really, really difficult to deal with. So not so much in these rooms, but in the ones coming up, they can be really annoying. Unless we manipulate them like that. So this is the last room in the Seeker section. They're gonna come up in a little later after we do a really cool skip. That saves, oh god. That saves a couple of minutes. So this next skip is called Search Skip. In the upcoming rooms, we would generally have to search for a whole bunch of keys in order to use them on some key blocks, and then use one of the red bubbles to shoot us through this passage. But instead, we just do an extended reverse hyper dash, and we're able to get over that section and save like 3 minutes. So now the game's slowly taking everything that we've seen in Mirror Temple and then adding it together. And then it's going to add one more thing, which is Theo in a crystal. So we haven't seen much of Theo. Oh, wow, that was cool. I wasn't trying to do that at all. Theo is in a crystal, so we haven't seen much of him, and now he's going to appear to be the most annoying person in the world, where we have to carry him on our back to the end of the temple. So when you have Theo in your arms, you can't dash. which is obviously really annoying. So we have to throw Theo and then dash into him to get a whole bunch of momentum. This section can be really cool if it's done properly, which I'm gonna try to do. And this is going to be the end of Theo's section, where this giant eye is pulsing. And in order to get through the pulses, we have to do some dashes and then throw Theo at it. And that's the end of Mirror Temple. Whew. Not bad, I'm doing pretty decent. So, we have Reflection and we have Summit coming up. Two very interesting levels in them. I know I keep saying that, but two very interesting levels in themselves, the two longest in the entire run. So the first thing we're going to see are these feathers that when we grab them, we can move in basically at 360 degrees. And if we hold the joystick, we can go a little faster than we would if we use the D-pad. So this is the only part of the run where we're actually going to be using the joystick. And I'm sure if any of the Celeste runners are watching this right now, they're probably telling me to go for leg skip, and I just... There's a way to skip using that block, which I will explain in a bit, because they make probably the best noise in the world. There's a way to skip using that block, but it's very difficult. Anyway, so these blocks, I don't remember what the actual name of them is, but they're called Kevin blocks, and whenever you hit them on their blue side, they will just continue in that direction until they hit something. So as usual, they can give us momentum, and we're going to be abusing that in a couple of sections. Don't get tired of that sound, by the way. You're going to hear it quite a bit. There we go. Yeah, so I was able to do a dash up the Kevin block and then do a wall bounce, and it gave me a whole bunch of momentum and a whole bunch of vertical distance. So there are also these bounce pads, I guess, where in the direction that we hit them, they bounce us back in the opposite direction. They are really annoying to use like properly. But in the same vein, if you hold the opposite direction, I believe it's the second or like one of the few frames that it bounces you in the opposite direction, you can get a very large bounce, one that sends you like really far, but I'm gonna try not to do those. I actually got one there and it screwed me up. So now we're seeing Badline again, or sort of a foreshadowing of what's to come. So Badline's going to taunt us a little bit while we go through these last few screens. And I'm going to do 3 dev-intended skips. Hopefully I get this one. There we go. So there, if we just fall through those cracks, we can skip that entire section pretty much. But doing it is actually really risky, because if we die at the bottom, we get sent all the way to the top since there are no checkpoints in that room. Or there is a checkpoint, but we go right by it. Ooh, that was really close. All right, and now we're coming into the most interesting part. So first I'm gonna do an extended dash and just get flown into the room. You can actually go a little further, and get ready to hear the best remix of Outkast's Hey Ya ever. So this is Battleline. Battleline doesn't want us going any further, so she's gonna shoot lasers and shoot little balls of energy at us, and we have to try to bounce off of her. When we bounce off of her, we get a dash back. So we're gonna try to utilize that to hit her much quicker. Feel free to sing along, by the way. There we go. Alright, so that's the first phase of Battleline. She's gonna get a little worse in a second, where she starts dropping blocks on us that we have to try to go faster than. And then a remix of a remix. That was not good. I've been struggling with this screen for so long, and it's not even that hard. There we go. So that is the Battleline fight. And then we're gonna get something a little special. We're gonna level up with Battleline, and now we're gonna have 2 dashes, which is gonna make the next level very exciting. So I never actually explained to you how Madeline's hair works. When Madeline's hair is brown, that means we only have 1 dash. When it's blue, we have none. And when it's pink, we have 2. So you're gonna be seeing that a lot. And that's Reflection. So now we're coming into Summit. Basically, in the story, not to spoil too much, in Reflection you fall all the way to the bottom of the mountain, and then with Battleline, you get your 2 dashes, and now Summit is pretty much climbing the entirety of the mountain. So Summit is going to be sort of like a recollection of all the chapters that we've done, except they're going to be made for having 2 dashes. So you're going to see a lot more distance-based things, a lot more vertical-based puzzles. And yeah, we're going to try to go through it really fast. So this one's sort of Reflection a little bit. And the next one that we're coming into is going to be the Forsaken City. So anything that we saw in the Forsaken City, we should be seeing in here. And that's the Forsaken City bit. So coming into Old Site, there's one more thing that I have to explain to you, and that's being able to hyper dash out of Dream Blocks. So Dream Blocks work the same way, but because we have 2 dashes, doing hyper dashes out of them means that we're going to have one more dash to work with. So a hyper dash is literally when you do a hyper dash coming out of a Dream Block, and it gives you a whole bunch of speed. So I'm going to try to do those as much as I can to save a little bit of time. Oh. All I had to do was grab that ledge. Yeah, so the next room... There we go. All right, so in this next room, you're going to see them quite a bit. And that's the Old Site section. So the next one coming up is the one that gives a lot of runners trouble. It's the Celestial Resort. The same thing applies where there are first cycles and death cycles, so we're going to try to do these really quickly. Oh god. I can't believe I did that. So the fast strat through that room is to do 3 ultra dashes. But I did the first 2 and then I got scared of the last one, so I didn't do it. And that almost caused a lot of problems for me. But that's one of the hardest rooms like in the game, in my opinion. Alright, that actually went pretty smoothly. So now we're coming into the Golden Ridge section, which has a couple of really interesting rooms, a lot of really cool skips. So the first thing we're going to do is go into this room that actually... Oh, okay, I'll wait until I get it first. There we go. That isn't seen a lot in the casual playthrough unless you're going for that berry. And that skips like a big section. And then I'm going to try to do a strat where I get 2 ultra dashes. There we go. And then we have the auto-scroller skip. So as I was mentioning with momentum, we use the momentum of this block to give us a whole bunch of speed when we dash off of it, and then we can skip this entire section. Oh, can I do it? There we go. So what I did there was neutral jumps. So Madeline has stamina when she climbs walls. And if you climb a wall too much, you lose stamina, you turn red, and then you start slipping down. So out of fear that that's what was going to happen to me, I did neutral jumps, which to the game doesn't act like your... Oh, what am I doing? To the game, it like doesn't drain your stamina and still lets you jump off of like while you're in the climbing animation. So I did a whole bunch of those to get up to the other Madeline. And here we have key skip. And I can't believe I did that first round. So the way that works is you do a wall bounce coming, well, not coming in, but you do a wall bounce off of the spikes. And usually you can't jump that high. So you can't do key skip by just jumping into the spikes. You actually have to use the momentum coming up from jumping off of the first wall. And now I'm gonna thread the needle. So you can dash through those spikes. And, there's technically a skip for these doors in this room, but I'm gonna go for the skip, because it's, you save about a second doing it, but it's very difficult. Oh, I'm getting very greedy on this room. There we go. All right, so now we're getting into the last part of Summit. There are 30 flags that we have to climb, so feel free to count down. We're gonna start at 30, and we're gonna go way up. There are a couple that I can skip, and I will be doing that, which is a little dangerous because they act as checkpoints for you. So I'm gonna try not to die. But this is the last section of the game. So a lot of it has wind in it. So right now we have heavy wind going down. And we have to, very much like Golden Ridge, we have to do a lot of dashes to get through it because normal jumping won't cut it. Come on. Come on. I'm just gonna die. So starting from the 17th flag, things are going to get a lot more spiky and more dangerous. And a lot of these flags are going to get a lot longer than the first couple. So if we take any deaths here, we're going to lose like upwards of 15 seconds. Oh man. Just as I say it. And 13 is one of the ones that kills people a lot. All right, so now we're in the last 6 flags, which is where things get very scary. All right, there we go. Oh no! That was so bad. I thought it was home free, but it wasn't. So it's very easy to lose all your stamina on this one in particular. But no, now we're at the top. We're at the summit. We got the last flag, and that's time. Whew. So that was Celeste. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's a pretty crazy game to speedrun. Probably one of the more difficult games I've ever speedrun. Very technically demanding, but as a casual game, it's a fantastic game. As a speedrun, it's great because you can learn at your own pace. There are a lot of different strategies, and you can learn as you go. And just in general, I really suggest that people pick it up just as a game or as a speed game. It's got a really welcoming community, and yeah.